Hey everyone, Bernard here. I hope you're all staying safe and well, and welcome to the Citizen channel. Yes, a feature called City Number 9, where we have a look at some of the players over in history. Some I've seen, some I wouldn't have seen, but the one today I definitely did see. I was there, I was going regular, saw him many times in his games for City. So going to look at the guys who pulled on the number 9 shirt. They may have pulled on other numbers as well, but they may have been the best known as being a number 9. And this gentleman certainly was at Manchester City, if only for a very short time. But today we're going to have a look at a Scottish gentleman called Derek Parlane, of course. So we're going to have a look at him. Please, if you're new to the channel, push that subscribe button, push the bell notification so you know these vlogs are coming out. City past, City present, lots of different things. I'll check the playlist and also see some stuff on my film and TV channel as well. So if you're interested in that, please check that out. Or if you know someone who might be interested, point them in my direction. I'll be very grateful. And there's links on screen for Facebook and Twitter. And I do have a little day job website where I sell old and rare DVDs, movie posters and some board games as well. And there will be some City stuff in the future, but as I'm recording this, I've not really had a chance to stick the stuff on, but keep your eye on that anyway. That's moviegamenostalgia.com. That's much appreciated. All your comments are very welcome. Any memories of this young man called Derek Parlane, anything you can remember? I've tried to think back when I look through various literature and programs, etc. I can remember certain things and certain specifics, but yeah, it is hard to to sort of remember exactly. Oh yeah, I remember him doing this and running up to the stand and doing that. But it's just a matter of looking at what games and what he achieved, and he did achieve quite a lot in a small space of time. It didn't quite last, but there you go. So any comments you got about Mr. Derek Parlane, or perhaps you're related? I'd sometimes do one of these, and I get a great nephew or a niece or someone coming on and commenting about it, which is fantastic. So. Let me know in the comments. If you know time to comment today, just give us a thumbs up. Right, let's get on with this. Derek Parlane, yeah. Today we hit the ground running, didn't he, Mr. Derek Parlane, for City's first full season at City. Sadly, it was just about as good as it got. Again, he had started a second season with us, and again he hit the ground running in the second season, but sadly, as we'll see, it didn't quite last. He was born Derek James Parlane on the 5th of May 1953 in Helensburgh, Scotland. His dad had played for Glasgow Rangers, and he followed suit and made over 300 appearances, just over 300 appearances, won 3 Scottish titles, 3 Scottish Cups and a European Cup Winners' Cup. There you go. So we got a European trophy as well. I think he actually got them to the final with a goal in the semi-final as well in that one. He scored 80 goals, which wasn't a bad return, and won 12 caps for Scotland as well. So he didn't actually play any games for Scotland while he was at City. His sort of international career had petered out by then. Leeds had brought him south of the border, took a chance, but things didn't quite work out. He scored 10 goals, but obviously it took about 50 appearances, and he actually went over to Hong Kong and had a spell there. We will mention it later on again, because he got invited over towards his end of his City career sort of thing. But so he went over to Hong Kong to play for a team for 8 or 9 months. But it was Billy McNeill, yes. Billy McNeill, of course, ex-Glasgow Celtic. Obviously had played against Derek Parlane at Celtic and Rangers games that had brought him to City to lead the attacking, of course, in our first season back in Division 2. I think we may have just recovered from the devastation of dropping out of the league, of First Division the season before. It took me a while to get over it, I must admit, but I think we sort of more or less got over it by then. At the time of bringing Derek Parlane to City, McNeill qualified his decision to bring him by in his programme notes against Barnsley on the 3rd of September 1983. There'll be images popping up on screen of relation to what I'm talking about, etc. And his view at the time in them programme notes: when I took over at City, the one thing desperately needed were front players. The club was short of cash and of strikers. No surprise there. I discovered, I don't have any strikers, do we? I discovered that Derek was available. We took over his contract from Leeds United. I'd remembered him well from his days as a centre-forward with Rangers and played against him a few times in my role at Celtic's centre-half. I have always known him as an honest and hard-working, but I just don't think he ever achieved his potential during his days at Leeds. Yeah, he struggled at Leeds. I always rated him in his time at Rangers, and if it's a competitive edge, which should serve us well. Well, there you go. That was his opening comments on the signing, of course, of Derek Parlane before that season started, and his fellow newcomer, I think McNabb had come as well. I think obviously another striker had come, a newcomer, and another Scot as well. There's a trio of Scots. There'll be an image on the screen there. Jim Tolmie as well. So yeah, he actually came, and they both scored in the opening game. Yeah, the opening game at Crystal Palace should be on screen. There's a couple of programs, significant programs behind me as well. So he scored his debut, which is always good. Always good if you score on your first team debut on the 27th of August 1983, and Tolmie scored as well. The third game of the season, his home debut, he delighted the 25,000 crowd, which wasn't bad. All right, not massive, but not a bad little turnout for the second division. He delighted us again by being on the score sheet at a 3-2 win over Barnsley. And the 6 foot number 9 seemed right at home. Yeah, just about 6 foot tall. So he wasn't tallest, but he wasn't too bad. He also scored a couple of hat-tricks that season. The first in a league game, and a 6-0 home win against Blackburn Rovers on the 17th of September, which earned him, as well as the cheers of us, the fans, it's the Saab man of the match. So obviously a nice bottle of bubbly for that game. Earlier the same day, he'd been quite lucky actually. He'd actually had a guy, he'd been trying to sell his house in Wetherby, Yorkshire, because obviously he was playing in Leeds, wasn't he? He'd been trying to sell his house in Wetherby, Yorkshire for 2 years, and he'd had no offers whatsoever. On the morning of the Blackburn game, this 6-0, when a guy just turned up on the front step and made him an offer he couldn't refuse. So literally on the same day, he sold his house and got this hat-trick. So it wasn't a bad day all round, was it, for Mr. Parlane? Yeah, in the matchday programme versus Grimsby on the 1st of October 1983, so a few games in, Billy McNeill wrote how happy he was with Parlane. He wrote in the programme, "It was another good day for Derek Parlane, his match winner being his 7th goal of the season. A better bonus than my wildest dreams when I signed Derek on a free during the summer. And he'll tell you it has been all beyond his greatest expectations. Oddly, Derek had his poorest game of the lot at Leeds, despite his critical goal." He's obviously back to Leeds. He scored a goal against him, but obviously we didn't win that one, unfortunately. But he stuck to his task and will always merit admiration for that. It was also a difficult day for him, turning out against his old club with plenty of eyes looking on to see whether he was going to prove something. His goal was a terrific header, a hallmark of his finishing ability, and had another first-class effort which brought a great save from their keeper. I'll tell you why he's done so well. He's worked non-stop since he signed. In training, he pushes himself to get the extra tone and sharpness in his play. He's a good trainer, and naturally his confidence is now sky high, helped by scoring our opening match at Crystal Palace. He has a great nose for putting the ball into the net. Whatever he's achieved so far, he's entitled to it because Derek has worked his kilt to the cleaners. There must be a Scottish saying that. He's worked his kilt to the cleaners. There you go. He's enjoying the style we have adopted to, and there's a nice balance up front with Jim Tolmie. It can only get better. Well, it probably did okay before it got worse, but there you go. So his second hat-trick came quite soon after. It was in a round 2. We'd actually gone to Torquay, the mighty Torquay, in October, and drawn the first leg of the second round of the League Cup, 2-legged ones as they are now. We'd drawn against, they are now, have we altered them now, haven't we? So have we altered them to a one-off now? Yeah, I think we have, haven't we? So I forget these things, but 0-0 the first leg, but in a 6-0 win at Main Road, he actually scored his second hat-trick. So that was on against Torquay October the 25th. He would actually go on to play the number 9 in 40 of the 42 league games, so that wasn't too shabby, was it? Missing only one game, and the other he started as a sub. The last third of the season, unfortunately, saw a little bit of decline. I mean, he sort of lived on that. If you look at the sort of match pen picks in the match magazines. Obviously, he's lived on that great start for a while with his goals, but he saw a bit of a decline in his performances. He scored 13 goals in his first 22 games, and in the last 20 only added a further 3, so there was definitely a decline. You could see a couple of mentions in Billy McNeil's notes about it and stuff like that. And by the end of February, as I said, he'd played number 9 in 40 of those games, but by the end of February he found himself out of the starting 11 in a couple of games, which was the only time that season. And McNeill actually stressed that it was sort of to relieve the pressure on himself. I think Tolmie also failed to start a few games. It was to relieve the pressure on him and Jim Tolmie for scoring all the goals. That's what Billy McNeill said. But he also implied, he went on to imply in the same statement that if anyone came up at a reasonable price, he would buy them. So, obviously, one minute he's saying he wants to take the pressure off, and then he's saying we'd buy some more players. So a little bit of a different sort of. Get a different opinion, really, aren't you, to what he's saying one thing and meaning another. In the match day programme on the 12th of May 1984 against Cambridge, the players were left to reflect on the season. And this is what Parlane actually wrote himself about his season. I went off the boil for a couple of months round about February and cannot explain the reason for it. I didn't feel as sharp as I had done in the first half of the season, as hard as I tried. I was aware that I wasn't going into the kind of dangerous positions from which I'd scored all my early goals. In fact, there were some games where I wasn't even having shots. I had no complaint at all when the boss left me out of the side, making me the sub at Middlesbrough on February 25th, though I was brought on for the last 10 minutes. The boss was very good to me in that difficult period. He said that I had possessed another striker to bring in, then he would have given me a rest for 2 or 3 games. That could have done me the power of good. That's reflecting what he said. Game that gave me the greatest kick was at home to Blackburn, of course, September 17th, when I scored a hat-trick, my first for City. I was particularly pleased with the one of those goals, a volley, but my best goal was netted against Barnsley on September the 3rd. It was a one that won the match 3-2. I've got a picture of it framed in the hall at home, and you can see Mick McCarthy then playing for Barnsley alongside me, just about to get in his tackle as I brought the ball down and let go with a shot. It's a terrific picture, though Mick might not like it. I find Charlton keeper Nicky Johns the most difficult to get past. He stopped a couple of mine in the home match on March the 31st, which I felt sure would hit the net. It's amazing how the whole scene has turned around for City since the turn of the year. The breaks have stopped going our way and so many of us have gone off the boil. City's top performance as a team was at Huddersfield, December the 27th, because they were such a hard team to beat at the time. We really turned it on. I always thought Fulham were an excellent side. They played ever so well in both matches against City, yet they've ended up nowhere. Newcastle are the best of the promoted teams. Yeah, I think Newcastle were the third in the table. We've checked the table, will appear there. So the writing did appear on the wall as we finished 4th that season, just outside the promotion spots. It looked quite good early season, but after Christmas it had died off a little bit, unfortunately. And during the writing did appear on the wall, because during the close season McNeill brought in 2 more forwards, Tony Cunningham and David Phillips. So if this hadn't sort of knocked Parlane's nose out of joint, it definitely got response from the Scots forward, as he hit the net 4 times in the first 3 league games of the 84-85 season, away at Wimbledon and home games to Grimsby and Fulham. But apart from the first game, he'd actually then lost his number 9 shirt to Tony Cunningham. Yeah, so he'd not become a number 9. Well, Mr. Tony Cunningham would be a feature. Probably not. I'm not too sure at the moment. But yeah, so he lost his number 9 shirt to Tony Cunningham and played as a number 11, and he played until the 15th of September, a home game against Huddersfield, and there's going to be an image on screen. He got injured in that one, and of course that will be his last full game in front of the Main Road fans, last competitive game in front of the Main Road fans. Despite a return later on against Shrewsbury on the 13th of October, which was his then last away game, that will be the end of his City career. He wouldn't turn out for the first team again. And yet another striker. This was it, another striker. So the old checkbook was opened again. Or we got a lot of these players on loan, or we got a lot of these players out of contract. Yes, another striker, Jim Melrose, was also brought in. So I say it was more or less bye-bye, wasn't it? I mean, by Christmas, McNeill was was quite open in the fact that even though obviously Parlane would still be considered, they were looking for offers from other clubs, etc., etc. So the writing was on the wall. Parlane even accepted, I said earlier on, he even accepted going back to Hong Kong over Christmas time for a couple of guest appearances in Hong Kong, just to get games, because it was the first Christmas ever he'd not actually been actively playing for a football team. So he also turned down a move to Carlisle. Yeah, obviously it was his future. He wanted to consider his future. He certainly didn't think a move to Carlisle was ideal for that future. But so he he turned down a move to Carlisle around Christmas time. But by January 1985, yes, he had been sold to Swansea. Swansea had come in for him, and in the match day programme notes versus Carlisle on the February 9th, 1985, the final words from Billy McNeill on Derek Parlane in the programme. Just find them on here. Derek Parlane also left with my best wishes. I am very appreciative of his efforts for City, particularly in the 1983-84 season when he finished the club's top scorer. He did, and treated us to all some smashing goals. The need to balance the books at Main Road as well as possible. The knowledge that Derek's best playing days were obviously behind him contributed to the decision. It would have been very unfair to keep such an experienced pro so far in the background, and there were offers around for Derek to consider. There you go. So that was the end of Derek Parlane at Manchester City. Yeah, I mean, despite this short stay at City, he was actually interviewed in a Scottish newspaper many years later. He still has remembers Main Road very fondly, and he actually stated that he loved Main Road, and he loved the fans and the friendliness of the place. So he still sort of enjoyed his stay, even though it was quite brief, a season and a half or something like that. He made 51 appearances, one as substitute, and scored 23 goals. So that wasn't too bad, was it? So, conclusion, I mean, yeah, it wasn't the greatest time to play for City, let's be honest about it. And despite a flying start, obviously it soon faltered a little bit. And not just Parlane himself, but City weren't very creative in midfield, etc. at that stage. We were a little bit in the doldrums, even though we'd gone down to the second tier. And although obviously things did improve, obviously, during the 84-85 season, he did lack a little bit of consistency. And you could see that just reading between the lines when you looked at some of Billy McNeil's statements throughout the season. And Billy McNeil was always willing to bring in new players. He was always willing to have a go and change things. You know, he was never happy just sitting still and trying to get the best out of what he had. He was always willing to bring in new players as well. So out of sight, out of mind, perhaps. So by the time he picked up that injury the following season, perhaps obviously, and then Jim Melrose had come in, and perhaps he was certainly out of the thoughts of Billy McNeill, despite a good start to the 84-85 season. Perhaps he'd already made his decision. I mean, perhaps Derek Parlane at 30. Sometimes strikers don't last too long, do they? Let's be honest about it. He had a great time, fantastic time at Rangers. He did struggle at Leeds. I mean, he moved to Swansea, as we said, and he scored just 3 goals in 21 games for Swansea. He went to 2 or 3 other clubs as well, but he had 42 games at Rochdale. And he scored 10. That wasn't too bad. But the level, obviously a level down again, wasn't it? And he scored 2 in 27 at Macclesfield. So, he was playing at a lower level, but he's still scoring the odd goals. But I think once he got 30, he was 31 in 84-85, wasn't he? So once he got to that stage, I think he was struggling just a little bit. But he never got anywhere near that 80 goals in just over 200 games for Rangers, and even the City levels of 23 goals in 51 games for City. So, I remember, Derek Parlane. He certainly wasn't one of those guys we would slag off particularly, you know what I mean? We probably slagged all the players off at some stage, but I've got some good memories, and thanks for joining me as we had a look back at City number 9s today. Derek Parlane, not the best, obviously not the best. Some memorable games games though, a couple of hat-tricks, you can't say more than that. No chance to play against United and score against United, which is always good for us City fans when players do that. But nonetheless, despite a short stay, some memorable games, and he's still got nice memories of us, and hopefully we've still got some nice memories of him. Let me know what you think anyway, and what your memories are of Derek Parlane. And thanks for joining me today. Join me again very soon for another look at a number 9 back in history. Anyway, thanks for watching. Whatever you're going to do the rest of the day, have a great one. Look after yourselves, look after your friends, look after your families. More importantly, let's all look after each other. So meet here again on the Citizen channel, or perhaps have a flit across, have a look at my film and TV channel. I only ask one thing, stay safe, Blues. Come on, City. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.